They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I prefer mine with a side of public humiliation and a generous helping of corporate destruction. My name is Orion Vanton, and until 3 months ago, I was the most boring man in Austin, Texas. At least, that's what my wife told everyone at her company dinner party. Oh, Orion? Kina had laughed, swirling her wine glass with theatrical flair. He's so boring. I couldn't cheat on him if I tried. I mean, who would I tell? The excitement would put me to sleep. The table erupted in laughter. Her colleagues from Meridian PR thought it was hilarious. I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, watching my wife of 8 years perform her little comedy routine at my expense. The worst part? She wasn't even drunk. Seriously, she continued, warming to her audience. He manages IT projects for insurance companies. Do you know what that means? He makes spreadsheets about spreadsheets. I once caught him organizing his sock drawer by thread count. More laughter. Helena Trenwall, Kina's boss, raised an eyebrow but didn't join in. She was studying me with those sharp green eyes of hers, like she was calculating something. Helena was the kind of woman who could silence a boardroom with a glance, and she was known for eating junior executives for breakfast. Literally, according to office gossip, she'd schedule breakfast meetings just to watch people squirm over eggs Benedict while she delivered bad news. I smiled and nodded along, playing the good sport. Inside, I was taking notes. That night, driving home in our sensible Honda Accord, Kina was still giggling. You were such a good sport tonight, honey. Everyone loves how you just roll with it. Yeah, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Rolling with it. That's me. She patted my knee condescendingly. That's why I married you. You're so stable, predictable, safe. Safe. The word hung in the air like a challenge. 2 weeks later, I discovered just how safe Kina thought I was. She'd left our shared iPad open on the kitchen counter, and her group chat was still active. I wasn't snooping. The notifications kept pinging while I was trying to read the news. The chat was called Girls Gone Wild Austin and featured Kina, her friend Jules from HR, and 2 other women from her office. The conversation was illuminating. Kina: OMG, you guys. Rafe is picking me up after work today. Told Orion I have a client dinner. Jules: Girl, you are terrible. Doesn't he suspect anything? Kina: Please. He's too busy organizing his precious project timelines. I could bring Rafe home for dinner and Orion would probably ask him about his quarterly goals. Tiffany: Wait, you're still seeing Gym Guy? How long has this been going on? Kina: 3 months. And before you ask, yes, it's everything I'm not getting at home. Rafe actually knows how to have fun. Jules: What if boring hubby finds out? Kina: What's he gonna do? Make a spreadsheet about it, please? I've got him so whipped he'd probably apologize for not being more interesting. I set the iPad down very carefully. My hands weren't shaking. That would come later. Right now, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Absolute clarity. I took screenshots. All of them. Then I did what any good IT project manager would do. I started gathering data. Phone records, we shared a plan. Credit card statements, joint account. Location history, she'd never turned off sharing. And a deep dive into social media. Kina thought I was boring, but boring people are thorough. Boring people pay attention to details. Boring people know how to build airtight cases. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Within a week, I had everything. The secret apartment she was renting downtown, the charges at restaurants I'd never been to, the patterns in her schedule that aligned perfectly with one Rafe Dunst, a marketing coordinator at her company who drove a silver Audi and posted gym selfies on Instagram like it was his job. I also had something else. A plan. See, being boring has its advantages. People underestimate you. They tell you things they shouldn't. They trust you with passwords and access codes and confidential information because, hey, what's boring old Orion going to do with it? They were about to find out. I started with reconnaissance. Rafe was easy to track. He checked in everywhere on social media and had the situational awareness of a golden retriever. 26 years old, still lived with 2 roommates, drove a car he couldn't afford, and had the kind of overdeveloped chest muscles that screamed, "I have no personality beyond this gym membership." Helena Trenwall was more interesting. 41, divorced, lived alone in a downtown penthouse, and had a reputation for destroying anyone who crossed her professionally. She was also, according to office gossip, incredibly protective of the company's image and had zero tolerance for workplace drama. Perfect. My friend Brent Marrow, my lawyer friend actually, thought I was having a midlife crisis when I called him. "You want to do what?" he asked, nearly choking on his coffee. "I want to lock her out, legally, cleanly, and I want it done right." Brent had been my roommate in college and was one of the few people who knew that beneath my boring exterior lurked a mind that could hold grudges like a steel trap. He'd seen me systematically destroy a professor who'd tried to steal credit for my senior project. That had taken 6 months and involved 3 different academic committees, but the professor had eventually been forced to resign. "Orion, buddy, are you sure about this? I mean, she's your wife." "She was my wife. Now she's just someone who happens to live in my house and share my name while she entertains her boyfriend in an apartment I'm inadvertently paying for." Brent was quiet for a moment. Then, "What do you need?" "Everything. Divorce papers, asset protection, locks changed, credit cards canceled. I want it surgical." "And the timeline?" I smiled for the first time in weeks. "Friday night. She's got a client dinner that's actually a weekend getaway with Rafe. I checked. They booked a suite at the Driscoll downtown." "How do you know all this?" "Because I'm boring, Brent, and boring people are very, very thorough." The beauty of my plan was its simplicity. I wasn't going to confront Keena directly. That would give her time to spin the story, play the victim, maybe even try to turn our friends against me. Instead, I was going to let her destroy herself. Thursday afternoon, I sent a single email to Helena Trenwall. No accusations, no drama, just a forwarded screenshot of Keena's group chat messages, specifically the ones where she mocked Helena's leadership style and made some particularly unflattering comments about the company's biggest client. The subject line read, "Thought you should see this professional communication from your team." I didn't expect a response, but I got one within an hour. "Mr. Vanton, I'd like to discuss this matter with you in person. Are you available tomorrow evening?" I suggested the Driscoll Hotel bar. 7 p.m. Friday came, and I was ready. Brent had worked his magic. The locks would be changed at 6 p.m., the credit cards would be canceled at 7, and the divorce papers were already filed. Everything legal, everything documented, everything boring and methodical and absolutely devastating. I arrived at the Driscoll early and chose a table with a clear view of the lobby. Helena appeared at exactly 7, looking like she could buy and sell the entire hotel without breaking stride. She was wearing a black dress that probably cost more than my car, and her expression suggested that someone was about to have a very bad evening. "Mr. Vanton." She sat down, without ceremony. "I assume you know why I wanted to meet." "I have some ideas." She ordered a martini. I stuck with beer. Boring people drink beer. "Your wife," she said, "has been sharing some interesting opinions about our company, and about me personally. I'm sorry you had to see that." "Are you?" Her green eyes were laser-focused. "Because something tells me you knew exactly what you were doing when you sent me those screenshots." I took a sip of my beer. "Helena, may I call you Helena? I think we both know that workplace professionalism is important, especially when it comes to client relationships and company reputation." She smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. "Indeed. Tell me, what exactly are you hoping to accomplish here?" "Justice," I said simply, "and maybe a little entertainment." She laughed. Actually laughed. You know, I've been watching you at company events. Everyone thinks you're this mild-mannered, boring husband who just smiles and nods. But you're not, are you? I'm exactly as boring as I appear to be. I just happen to be very good at it. Good at being boring? Good at being underestimated. Helena raised her martini glass. To being underestimated. We clinked glasses just as my phone buzzed with a text from Kina. At dinner with clients. Don't wait up. Love you. I showed Helena the message. She checked her watch. She should be arriving upstairs right about now, Helena said. Room 412, wasn't it? I stared at her. How did you... I own a 20% stake in this hotel, and I make it my business to know everything about my employees' extracurricular activities, especially when they're conducting them on company time with company credit cards. This was getting interesting. What are you suggesting? I asked. Helena finished her martini and stood up. I'm suggesting that your wife is about to have a very educational evening. The question is, do you want to watch or do you want to participate? I looked at this powerful, dangerous woman who was offering to help me destroy my cheating wife, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: excitement. What did you have in mind? Helena's plan was elegant in its simplicity. While Kina and Rafe were settling into their romantic evening upstairs, she and I would be conducting a very public business meeting in the hotel's main restaurant. Nothing inappropriate, nothing that could be misconstrued, just two professionals discussing a potential consulting opportunity. The beauty of this, Helena explained as we moved from the bar to a prominent table in the restaurant, is that it's completely innocent. I'm allowed to meet with potential contractors. You're allowed to explore new career opportunities. The fact that it will drive your wife absolutely insane is just a happy coincidence. She'd already arranged for the hotel's photographer to be present, something about updating their website with images of successful business meetings. The photos would naturally end up on the hotel's social media feeds, where Kina's friends would inevitably see them. You're diabolical, I said, and I meant it as a compliment. I'm efficient, Helena corrected. There's a difference. Your wife has been a thorn in my side for months. She gossips, she undermines team morale, and she's been using company resources for personal gain. This just gives me the excuse I need to handle the situation. Our waiter approached, a young man who clearly recognized Helena and was trying not to appear nervous. Ms. Trenwall, so good to see you again. Your usual table? This will be fine, David. We're conducting a business meeting, so we'll need the lighting adjusted for photographs. Within minutes, our table was perfectly lit, and a discreet photographer was capturing our business discussion. Helena had ordered a bottle of wine, something expensive that would look impressive in photos, and was leaning forward with the kind of intense focus that suggested serious negotiations. Now, she said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear, tell me about your experience with large-scale digital transformations. I played along, discussing my actual work experience, while she nodded and took notes. To anyone watching, we looked like exactly what we claimed to be, two professionals exploring a business opportunity. My phone buzzed. A text from Kina. Client dinner running late. Might have to stay downtown tonight. I showed Helena the message. She smiled. Perfect timing. David? She signaled our waiter. Could you send a bottle of champagne to room 412, put it on my account, and include a note that says, congratulations on your new venture and management? Certainly, Ms. Trenwall. I stared at her. You're going to let them know you know? I'm going to let her know that I know. There's a difference. Rafe is just collateral damage. 20 minutes later, my phone exploded with calls. I let them go to voicemail while Helena and I continued our meeting. The photographer captured several shots of us reviewing documents, actual consulting contracts that Helena had brought as props. She's panicking, Helena observed, watching my phone light up repeatedly. Good. Panic leads to mistakes, and mistakes lead to consequences. Finally, I answered. Keena's voice was shrill with barely controlled hysteria. What the hell are you doing? Having dinner. What are you doing? Don't play games with me, Orion. I know you're with Helena. I got the champagne. Helena invited me to discuss a consulting opportunity. It's quite lucrative, actually. This is insane. You can't just what? Have a business meeting? Explore new career opportunities? I thought you wanted me to be more interesting. There was a long pause. Then, I'm coming down. I wouldn't recommend that. You're supposed to be at a client dinner, remember? The line went quiet. I could practically hear her calculating the implications. We need to talk, she said finally. I'm sure we do, but right now I'm in the middle of a business meeting with your boss. It would be rude to leave. I hung up and turned off my phone. Helena was watching me with something like admiration. Well played. She's trapped now. She can't come down without admitting she lied about the client dinner, but she can't stay upstairs knowing we're down here. What happens next? Next, we wait. Your wife is many things, but patient isn't one of them. Helena was right. Within 10 minutes, Keena appeared at the top of the restaurant stairs, scanning the room frantically. She'd clearly thrown on clothes hastily. Her dress was wrinkled, her hair was disheveled, and she looked like someone who'd been caught in the middle of something she shouldn't have been doing. She spotted us and started walking over, her heels clicking aggressively against the marble floor. The photographer, still discreetly working, captured several shots of her approach. Orion. Her voice was tight with controlled rage. We need to talk, now. Keena. Helena's voice was ice-cold professional. How unexpected to see you here. I thought you had a client dinner tonight. Keena's face went through several shades of red. The dinner ended early. I see. And which client were you meeting with? I don't recall approving any evening meetings for this week. The trap was closing, and Keena knew it. She looked from Helena to me, clearly trying to calculate her options. It was informal, a potential new account. Interesting. What company? The silence stretched out like a wire about to snap. Keena couldn't give a name without Helena being able to verify it, but she couldn't admit to lying either. Maybe we should discuss this privately, Keena said finally. Oh, but this is fascinating, Helena replied. I love hearing about our team's initiative in developing new business. Please tell us more about this potential client. I almost felt sorry for Keena. Almost. Helena, I interjected, perhaps we should continue our discussion another time. It seems like there might be some internal company matters to resolve. Nonsense, Helena said smoothly. I'm sure Keena can multitask. After all, she's been managing multiple projects quite successfully. The emphasis on projects was subtle but unmistakable. Keena got the message. I need to speak with my husband, privately. Of course, but Orion, before you go, Helena handed me a business card. Think about our discussion. I believe this opportunity could be very rewarding. She stood and shook my hand, holding it just a moment longer than strictly professional, while the photographer captured the moment. Ms. Trenwall, Keena said as Helena prepared to leave, I hope you understand that this is just a misunderstanding. Helena turned back with a smile that could freeze champagne. Oh, I understand perfectly. In fact, I think I understand more than you realize. Enjoy the rest of your evening, Keena, both of you. She left, and suddenly it was just me and my wife, sitting in the elegant restaurant where she'd expected to be having a romantic evening with her boyfriend. What the hell is going on? Keena hissed. I'm exploring new career opportunities. Helena thinks I have potential. This is about the group chat, isn't it? You saw the messages. I saw a lot of things. Keena's eyes darted around the restaurant, clearly aware that people were watching. We need to go home and discuss this properly. Actually, we don't. I pulled out my phone and turned it back on. 17 missed calls, 23 text messages. I ignored them all and opened my email instead. Brent sent me an update, I said conversationally. The locks have been changed, your credit cards have been canceled, and the divorce papers have been filed. Keena stared at me like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. What? Oh, and your boyfriend is probably wondering where you went. Room 412, wasn't it? Her face went completely white. You can't do this. Actually, I can, and I have. The question now is what you're going to do about it. This is insane. You can't just lock me out of my own house. It's not your house. It's my house. Bought with my money in my name before we were married. Brent was very thorough about that. Keena was starting to hyperventilate. I'll fight this. I'll take you for everything. With what? You just lost your job. I didn't lose my job. Check your email. She fumbled for her phone with shaking hands. I watched her face as she read Helena's message. It was beautiful in its professional brutality. A formal notice of suspension pending investigation into misuse of company resources and violation of professional conduct policies. She can't do this, Keena whispered. She can, and she did. Apparently, using the company credit card for personal expenses is frowned upon. Who knew? Keena looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. What do you want? I want you to understand something, I said, leaning forward. You called me boring. You said I was too predictable to be interesting, too safe to be exciting. You were wrong. I stood up and dropped a $50 bill on the table. I'm not boring, Keena. I'm patient. There's a difference, and my patience just ran out. I left her sitting there, alone in the restaurant, with no job, no access to money, and no way to get into what used to be our home. As I walked through the lobby, I passed room 412. I could hear raised voices inside. Rafe was clearly not happy about being abandoned mid-evening. I smiled and headed for the parking garage. Tomorrow, things would get really interesting. Saturday morning brought a series of increasingly frantic phone calls from Keena. I let them all go to voicemail while I enjoyed my coffee and read the Austin American Statesman in my newly peaceful kitchen. The house felt different without her constant chatter and criticism, cleaner somehow, like I'd finally opened the windows after months of stale air. Around noon, Brent arrived with updates and bagels. She tried to get back in around 2 a.m., he reported, settling into what used to be Keena's chair at the kitchen table. The security system recorded everything. She was with some guy, tall, muscular, drives an Audi. Rafe. Yeah, that tracks. They tried the front door, the back door, and he actually attempted to climb through a window before the motion sensors triggered the lights and alarms. Please tell me you got video. Brent grinned and pulled out his tablet. Oh, it's better than video. It's high-definition digital recording with audio. We watched Rafe boost himself up to the living room window, only to be caught in the sudden glare of security floods while alarms blared. His startled yelp was clearly audible as he lost his grip and tumbled into Keena's prized rose bushes. That's going to leave marks, I observed. Gets better. Watch what happens when the police arrive. The responding officers had been professional but thorough. Keena's explanation about being locked out of her own home fell apart quickly when they asked for identification showing her current address. Her driver's license still listed our house, but the property records clearly showed my sole ownership. Domestic dispute? One officer had asked. Divorce proceeding, Brent had explained, appearing from his car where he'd been waiting. I'm Mr. Vanton's attorney. We filed yesterday, and Mrs. Vanton was served with papers this evening. She has no legal right to enter the property. The officers had been sympathetic but firm. Keena and Rafe were asked to leave, with a warning about trespassing. She threatened to sue everyone, Brent continued. The police, the security company, me, you, and I, quote, that witch, Helena Trenwall. Speaking of Helena, how much trouble is Keena in at work? Significant. I did some research. Helena wasn't bluffing about the company credit card misuse. Keena's been charging personal expenses for months, including that downtown apartment. That's embezzlement, technically. I felt a small pang of something that might have been guilt. Might have been. Will she go to jail? Probably not, if she's smart about it. Helena seems more interested in getting rid of her than making an example. But her career in PR is effectively over. Helena has connections throughout the industry. My phone buzzed with another call from Keena. This time I answered. What do you want, Orion? Her voice was hoarse, probably from crying. I want you to stop calling me. We need to talk. This has gone far enough. I agree. It should have ended the first time you decided to cheat on me. Or the second time. Or any of the dozen other times over the past 3 months. Silence. Then, how long have you known? Long enough to document everything. Bank records, phone records, hotel receipts, apartment lease, social media posts. I've got a complete timeline, Keena. Complete. I never meant for this to happen. You meant for all of it to happen. You just didn't mean to get caught. What do you want? Money? I'll pay you back for the apartment. With what job? Another silence. Helena will ruin me, she said finally. Helena is protecting her company's interests. You ruined yourself. Please, Orion. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can... Keena, stop. It's over. Accept it and move on. I won't sign the divorce papers. You don't have to. Texas allows no-fault divorce. I can wait. I'll fight you on everything. The house, the savings, the car. The house is mine. The savings account has been frozen pending asset division, and since you've been unemployed for exactly 18 hours, your claim on future earnings is limited. The car is in my name. Brent was very thorough. I could hear her crying now, ugly sobs that might have moved me a week ago. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. I hung up and turned off my phone. Brent was watching me with concern. You okay? I'm fine. You don't look fine. You look like someone who's about to do something stupid. I'm not done yet. Orion, buddy, you've won. She's lost her job, her home, her financial security. Maybe it's time to ease up. I thought about that for a moment. 3 days ago, I would have agreed. 3 days ago, I was still the boring, predictable husband who would have accepted Keena's apology and tried to make things work. But something had changed during that meeting with Helena. I'd tasted power, real power, and it was intoxicating. She humiliated me in public, Brent. In front of her colleagues, her friends, our neighbors. She made me a joke. And now she's unemployed and homeless. Isn't that enough? No, I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. It's not. Brent sighed. What are you planning? Phase 2. There's a phase 2? I pulled up Keena's Instagram account on my laptop. She'd posted 3 times since last night, all carefully crafted to suggest that she was taking a brief break from work to focus on personal growth. The comments were supportive, mostly from friends who didn't know the real story. She's trying to control the narrative, I explained, making it seem like this was her choice, her decision to leave the company and end our marriage. So I'm going to tell the real story. I opened a new social media account, not Facebook or Instagram, but a blog platform that would allow for longer, more detailed posts. The title was simple: The Boring Husband's Guide to Discovering Your Wife's Double Life. Orion, don't do this. Why not? She made our private business public when she mocked me at that dinner party. She made it public when she discussed our marriage in her group chat. She made it public when she brought her boyfriend to our house. She brought him to the house? I pulled up the security footage from 2 weeks ago. There was Rafe walking up to my front door in broad daylight, being greeted by Keena with a kiss that was definitely not professional. She's been conducting her affair in our home, Brent, in our bed. while I was at work earning the money that pays for the house and the utilities and the food in the refrigerator. Brent watched the footage with growing anger. He'd been married for 15 years, and the idea of infidelity in the family home clearly struck a nerve. "Okay," he said finally. "What do you need me to do?" "Make sure everything I post is legally protected. No libel, no slander, just facts and documentation." And then? Then we see how much Kina enjoys being the subject of public discussion. I spent the rest of Saturday crafting my first blog post. It was detailed, factual, and devastating. I included screenshots of the group chat, with other people's names redacted, photos of hotel receipts, bank statements showing charges at restaurants I'd never been to, and a timeline of Kina's lies over the past 3 months. The tone was conversational, almost friendly, just a regular guy sharing his experience with discovering his wife's infidelity. I didn't name Kina directly, referring to her only as my wife, but anyone who knew us would recognize the details. I ended with a simple statement. I'm sharing this because I think other people deserve to know what they're really dealing with. Betrayal thrives in darkness, but it withers under scrutiny. Before posting, I sent the draft to Helena. Her response was immediate. Publish it. Sunday morning, I hit the publish button and shared the link on my personal social media accounts. Then I waited. The response was swift and overwhelming. Within hours, the post had been shared dozens of times. Friends, neighbors, and coworkers were commenting with support, shock, and their own stories of infidelity. More importantly, people were connecting the dots. Kina's friends started asking pointed questions about her career break and mutual separation. Her carefully constructed narrative was crumbling under the weight of documented facts. By Sunday evening, Kina was calling again. "You bastard," she said when I answered. "How could you do this to me?" "I didn't do anything to you. I just told the truth." "You're destroying my reputation." "I'm sharing my experience. If that destroys your reputation, maybe the problem isn't with my sharing. Take it down. Take it down now, or I'll sue you for everything you have." Sue me for what? Telling the truth? Publishing factual information? Good luck with that. This is harassment. This is accountability. There's a difference. She hung up, but I knew she'd call back. Kina had never been good at accepting consequences for her actions. Monday morning brought a new development. Helena called while I was getting ready for work. "Have you seen Kina's response?" she asked. "What response?" "Check her social media." Kina had posted a long emotional statement about being the victim of a vindictive ex-husband who was trying to destroy her life with lies and manipulation. She portrayed herself as a woman who had simply grown apart from her husband and was now being punished for seeking happiness. The post was getting significant engagement, but not the kind Kina had hoped for. Most of the comments were from people who had read my blog post and weren't buying her version of events. "She's making it worse for herself," Helena observed. "Every time she responds, she draws more attention to your original post." Good. There's something else. Rafe has been suspended from his position pending investigation. For what? Misuse of company resources, violation of workplace relationship policies, and potential harassment of other employees. It seems several female colleagues have come forward with complaints about his behavior. I felt a surge of satisfaction. How did that happen? Your blog post gave them courage to speak up. Apparently, seeing Rafe's behavior exposed in detail made other women realize they weren't alone in experiencing his inappropriate conduct. So he's finished too? Professionally, yes. And Orion? There's one more thing. I've been thinking about our conversation Friday night, about consulting opportunities. Oh? I meant what I said. You have skills that could be valuable to my company. Are you interested in discussing it further? I looked around my quiet kitchen, thought about my boring job managing insurance IT projects, and realized that maybe it was time for some changes in my life too. Very interested, Excellent. Can you meet me for lunch today? I have a proposition that might interest you. As I hung up, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: anticipation for what came next. Kina had wanted excitement in her life. She was about to get more than she bargained for. Helena's proposition was elegant in its simplicity. She wanted me to join Meridian PR as a digital strategy consultant, specializing in reputation management and crisis communication. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "You've demonstrated a remarkable ability to control narrative and manage information flow," she explained over lunch at Austin's most exclusive restaurant. "Those are valuable skills in my industry. You want to hire me to do to other people what I did to Kina? I want to hire you to help our clients protect themselves from people like Kina. There's a difference." The offer was generous, nearly double my current salary plus equity in the company. But more than the money, it was the opportunity that intrigued me. Helena was offering me a chance to reinvent myself completely. "What about the obvious conflict of interest?" I asked. "What conflict? You're no longer married to my former employee, and she's no longer employed by my company. Any connection between you and Kina is purely historical." Helena had clearly thought this through. She slid a contract across the table, already prepared, already approved by legal. "I'll need to give 2 weeks' notice at my current job," I said. "Already handled. I spoke with your current employer this morning. They're willing to release you immediately for the right consulting fee." I stared at her. "You bought out my contract?" "I acquired your services. It's a standard business practice." Nothing about Helena Trenwall was standard, but I was beginning to appreciate her efficiency. "There is one condition," she continued. "This position requires absolute discretion. No more blog posts, no more public commentary about your personal life. Can you handle that?" I thought about it. The blog had served its purpose. Kina's reputation was in ruins, and the truth about our marriage was now public record. I didn't need to keep pushing. "I can handle that." "Excellent. You start Monday." That afternoon, I updated my blog with a final post: "Moving forward, why I'm done talking about the past." It was brief and professional, thanking people for their support while announcing that I was closing this chapter of my life and focusing on new opportunities. The response was overwhelmingly positive. People respected the decision to take the high road and move on. Kina, predictably, saw it differently. "So you're working for her now?" she demanded when she called that evening. "This whole thing was just a job interview? This whole thing was you cheating on me for 3 months while mocking me to your friends and colleagues. Everything else is just consequences. You planned this. You and Helena planned all of this." "Kina, I met Helena for the first time last Friday. Everything that happened before that was your choice." "I don't believe you." "I don't care what you believe." There was a long pause. Then, "I'm staying with Jules until I figure things out." Jules was her friend from HR, the same Jules who had participated in the group chat mocking me. I wondered how long that arrangement would last once Jules realized that associating with Kina was now a career liability. "Good for you. The apartment lease runs through the end of next month. I can't afford to break it." "Not my problem." "Orion, please, I know you're angry, but I need help. I don't have anywhere else to turn." For just a moment, I felt the old impulse to fix her problems, to be the reliable husband who cleaned up her messes. Then I remembered the group chat, the lies, the humiliation at the company dinner. "You should have thought about that before you decided I was too boring to deserve basic respect." "I never said—" "You said exactly that. I have screenshots." I hung up and blocked her number. It was time to close this chapter completely. Monday morning, I walked into Meridian PR as their newest senior consultant. Helena had arranged for an office on the executive floor with a view of downtown Austin and access to resources I'd never had in my previous job. My first assignment was reviewing the company's internal communication policies, specifically updating guidelines around social media use and workplace relationships. The irony was delicious. "I want you to create a comprehensive framework," Helena explained during our morning meeting. "Something that protects both the company and our employees from the kind of situation we just experienced. You want me to Kina-proof your business. I want you to create policies that prevent anyone from compromising our company's reputation through poor personal choices." It was fascinating work, and I was good at it. My boring attention to detail and systematic approach to problem solving were exactly what Helena needed. Within a week, I'd identified 17 different policy gaps that could expose the company to liability. More importantly, I was beginning to understand the broader scope of Helena's business. Meridian PR didn't just handle traditional public relations. They specialized in crisis management, reputation repair, and strategic communication for high-profile clients. "We're not just managing publicity," Helena explained. "We're managing reality. In the digital age, perception is reality, and we help our clients control their perception." It was a masterclass in power, and Helena was an excellent teacher. Meanwhile, Kina's situation continued to deteriorate. Jules had asked her to leave after just 3 days. Apparently, Kina's presence was creating awkward situations at work, and Jules couldn't afford the association. Rafe had been officially terminated from his position and was facing potential legal action from 3 female colleagues. His social media accounts had been deactivated, and according to office gossip, he'd moved back in with his parents in Dallas. Kina was now staying at a budget motel near the airport, paying daily rates she couldn't afford while trying to find new employment in an industry where Helena's influence made her essentially unemployable. She tried reaching out through mutual friends, but most of them had read my blog post and weren't interested in getting involved. The few who were sympathetic quickly discovered that helping Kina meant risking their own professional relationships. "She's radioactive," Brent reported during our weekly lunch meeting. "Nobody wants to touch her. I almost feel sorry for her." Almost? I thought about the company dinner, about the group chat, about finding Rafe in my house. Almost. 2 weeks into my new job, Helena presented me with an interesting opportunity. "We have a client," she said, "who's dealing with a very public infidelity scandal. The wife discovered her husband's affair and is threatening to go to the media with details that could destroy his business empire." What kind of business? Real estate development? High-profile projects? Celebrity clients? Political connections? If this story breaks, it won't just ruin his marriage. It'll collapse his entire operation. "And you want me to help him manage the crisis?" "I want you to help him control the narrative. Make sure that if this story comes out, it comes out on our terms." It was exactly the kind of challenge I'd been preparing for. Complex, high stakes, requiring both strategic thinking and careful execution. "What's the timeline?" "The wife has given him until Friday to agree to her settlement demands. If he doesn't, she goes public Monday morning." "That's not much time." "No, it's not, but I think you're uniquely qualified to handle this particular situation." Helena was right. I understood betrayal from the victim's perspective, but I also understood the power of controlling information flow. I could help this client navigate both sides of the equation. "I'll need complete access to all relevant information," I said. "Financial records, communication history, details about the affair, everything." "Already arranged. The client will be here this afternoon for a full briefing." "And Helena? If we're going to do this, we do it right. No lies, no cover-ups, just strategic truth-telling." She smiled. I wouldn't expect anything less. As I prepared for the meeting, I reflected on how much my life had changed in just 3 weeks. I'd gone from being a boring IT manager with a cheating wife to being a high-powered consultant helping manage corporate crises. Kina had been right about one thing. I had been boring. But boring wasn't the same as powerless, and she'd learned that lesson too late. Now it was time to help someone else learn how to turn a crisis into an opportunity. The client meeting was scheduled for 3 p.m. I spent the morning reviewing everything Helena had provided about the case, building a comprehensive understanding of the situation and the key players involved. This was going to be interesting. The client turned out to be someone I recognized. David Brennan, a real estate mogul whose developments had reshaped Austin's skyline over the past decade. His wife, Patricia, had discovered his affair with a local news anchor and was threatening to release recordings of their conversations unless he agreed to a settlement that would essentially give her control of his business empire. "She's got everything," Brennan explained during our meeting. "Audio recordings, photos, financial records showing money I spent on the girlfriend. She's been planning this for months." Helena and I exchanged glances. This wasn't just a scorned wife lashing out. This was a calculated campaign. "What does she want?" I asked. 60% of all assets, ongoing control of the company, and a public apology taking full responsibility for the breakdown of our marriage. In other words, she wants to destroy you professionally while keeping the financial benefits of being married to you. Exactly. I spent the next hour reviewing Patricia Brennan's evidence. It was comprehensive and damaging, but not insurmountable. More importantly, it revealed something interesting about Patricia herself. "She's made a mistake," I told Helena after Brennan left. "What kind of mistake?" "She's documented everything, including her own planning process. Look at these timestamps on the recordings. She's been gathering evidence for 8 months, but the affair only started 6 months ago. Meaning? Meaning she was planning to destroy her husband before she even discovered his infidelity. This isn't about betrayal, it's about greed." Helena smiled. "And that changes everything." It changes everything. We spent the evening developing a counter-strategy. Instead of trying to minimize Brennan's affair, we would expose Patricia's premeditated plan to destroy him. The narrative would shift from cheating husband gets caught to calculating wife orchestrates elaborate scheme. It was exactly the kind of complex, high-stakes project I'd been hoping for, but as we worked late into the night, my phone started buzzing with calls from an unknown number. I ignored them initially, but they kept coming. Finally, Helena noticed. "Are you going to answer that?" I checked the caller ID. The number wasn't familiar, but something about the persistence felt familiar. "Orion?" The voice was slurred, emotional. "Kina. How did you get this number?" "I need to see you. We need to talk." "We have nothing to talk about." "Please. I'm outside your office building. I've been waiting for hours." I looked at Helena, who was listening with obvious interest. "Kina, it's almost midnight. Go home." "I don't have a home. You took my home." "You lost your home when you decided to cheat on me. Go to your motel." "I can't afford the motel anymore. I'm living in my car." Despite everything, I felt a pang of something that might have been sympathy, might have been. "That's not my problem." "Orion, please. I know I messed up, but this has gone too far. I'm losing everything." "You lost everything when you chose to betray our marriage." "I made a mistake. One mistake." 3 months of mistakes. Dozens of lies. Hundreds of small betrayals. This wasn't one mistake, Kina. This was a pattern of choices. Helena was watching me carefully, probably wondering if I was going to cave. But something had hardened in me over the past few weeks. Something that wouldn't bend anymore. "I'm calling the police," Kina said suddenly. "I'm going to tell them you're harassing me, stalking me, ruining my life." "Go ahead. I'm sure they'll be very interested in your evidence." "You think this is over? You think you've won?" "I still have friends, Orion. I still have people who care about me." "Then call them." I hung up and turned off my phone. Helena was studying me with that calculating look she got when she was processing new information. "She's desperate," she observed. "She's broke, homeless, and unemployable. Of course she's desperate. Desperate people do unpredictable things." "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that your ex-wife might become a liability if she decides to escalate this situation." I thought about that. Kina had always been dramatic, but she'd never been violent or truly destructive. Manipulative, yes. Vindictive, certainly. But dangerous? "She's not that type," I said finally. Everyone is that type under the right circumstances. Helena's words proved prophetic. The next morning, I arrived at the office to find my car keyed, all 4 tires slashed, and "Liar" spray-painted across the windshield in bright red letters. Security footage showed Kina approaching my car around 3 a.m., clearly intoxicated, carrying a knife and a can of spray paint. The whole incident was captured in high-definition detail. "Well," Helena said, reviewing the footage, "that simplifies things." "How so?" "Now she's committed actual crimes. Vandalism, destruction of property, possibly criminal mischief. This isn't just a domestic dispute anymore. It's a legal matter." I called Brent, who arrived within an hour to review the evidence. "This is good for you," he said, which seemed like an odd way to describe having my car destroyed. "Good how?" "It establishes a pattern of escalating behavior. If she's willing to destroy your property, what else might she be willing to do? This gives us grounds for a restraining order." "I don't want a restraining order. I just want her to leave me alone." Those might be the same thing at this point. Helena had been quiet during our conversation, but now she spoke up. "There's another option," she said. "What kind of option?" "A professional option. We could offer Kina a consulting fee to go away quietly." I stared at her. "You want to pay her off?" "I want to solve the problem efficiently. Right now, she's a distraction from our real work. A small payment to relocate her somewhere else might be cheaper than dealing with ongoing harassment." "Absolutely not." "Why not?" "Because it rewards her behavior. Because it tells her that destruction and manipulation work. Because it makes me complicit in my own victimization." Helena nodded slowly. "I respect that. But what's your alternative?" "We document everything. We build a case, and we let the legal system handle it." "That could take months." "Then it takes months." Brent was already pulling out paperwork. "I can file for the restraining order this afternoon. With this footage, it should be approved quickly." "Do it." As Brent left to handle the legal filing, Helena and I returned to work on the Brennan case. But I found it hard to concentrate, knowing that Kina was out there somewhere, probably planning her next move. I didn't have to wait long to find out what that would be. Around noon, my office phone rang. The caller ID showed the main number for my previous employer, the insurance company where I'd worked for 6 years. "Orion? It's Mike Chen from HR. We need to talk." Mike sounded uncomfortable, which was unusual. He was normally one of the most easygoing people I knew. "What's going on, Mike?" "We've received some concerning allegations about your conduct while you were employed here. I need you to come in for a meeting this afternoon." "What kind of allegations?" "I'd rather discuss this in person. Can you be here at 3? I looked at Helena, who was listening to my side of the conversation with obvious concern. "I'll be there." After I hung up, Helena leaned back in her chair. "She's trying to destroy your professional reputation now," she said. "Apparently." "What could she possibly accuse you of? You were a model employee." "I have no idea, but I'm about to find out." The meeting at my former employer was enlightening in the worst possible way. Kina had filed a formal complaint alleging that I had used company resources to stalk and harass her, that I had accessed confidential information without authorization, and that I had created a hostile work environment for her friends who worked at partner companies. "These are serious allegations," Mike explained. "We have to investigate them thoroughly." "Mike, you know me. You know I would never do any of these things. I know the person I thought you were, but people change, especially during divorce proceedings." I spent 2 hours providing documentation that refuted every single allegation. My computer access logs, my project records, my communications history, everything proved that I had been exactly the boring, rule-following employee I'd always been. "She's lying," I told Mike, "about all of it." "Why would she lie about something this serious?" "Because she's desperate and angry and looking for any way to hurt me." Mike reviewed my evidence carefully. Finally, he sighed. "Orion, I believe you. But even if these allegations are false, the fact that they've been made creates problems for us. We have relationships with companies where her friends work. This could become a public relations issue. So what are you saying? I'm saying that maybe it's better for everyone if we just let this fade away quietly. Don't respond to her allegations. Don't escalate the situation. Just let it die down naturally. And if I don't? If I fight back? Then this becomes a bigger story, and bigger stories have a way of hurting everyone involved. I left the meeting understanding that Kina had found a new strategy. If she couldn't win through direct confrontation, she would try to destroy me through a campaign of professional sabotage. But she had made one critical mistake. She had chosen to wage this war against someone who now had Helena Trenwall as an ally. And Helena didn't lose wars. Chapter 6. Final Showdown. Helena's response to Kina's escalation was swift and surgical. Within 24 hours of my meeting with my former employer, she had deployed the full resources of Meridian PR to investigate Kina's allegations and build a comprehensive defense. She's made this a professional matter now, Helena explained as we reviewed the evidence her team had gathered. That means we handle it professionally. The investigation revealed something interesting. Kina hadn't just targeted my former employer. She'd reached out to 6 different companies in Austin's business community, making similar allegations about my conduct and suggesting that I was dangerous and unstable. She's trying to make you unemployable, Helena observed. It's actually quite clever. Clever? She can't attack you financially. The divorce settlement is already decided. She can't attack you legally. She's the one who committed crimes. But she can attack your reputation and your ability to earn a living. So what do? Helena smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. We remind her why she shouldn't have chosen to fight someone with my resources. The counter-campaign began immediately. Helena's team reached out to every company Kina had contacted, providing them with comprehensive documentation of her false allegations, her criminal behavior, and her pattern of manipulation. More importantly, they shared the security footage of Kina vandalizing my car, along with a detailed timeline of her escalating harassment. The beauty of this approach, Helena explained, is that we're not attacking her. We're simply providing factual information that allows people to make informed decisions. The effect was immediate and devastating. Within days, Kina found herself facing potential legal action from 2 companies whose executives she had approached with false allegations about their business partners. But Kina wasn't finished. If anything, the professional pushback seemed to make her more desperate and more reckless. Thursday evening, I was working late in my office when security called. "Mr. Vanton, we have a situation in the lobby. There's a woman here demanding to see you, and she's agitated." I checked the security monitor. Kina was standing in the building's elegant lobby, looking disheveled and angry, gesturing wildly at the security guards. "I'll be right down." Helena looked up from her work. "Want backup?" "I can handle this." "I'm sure you can, but you shouldn't have to." She was right. I'd been handling Kina's drama alone for too long. "Actually, yes, I'd appreciate the backup." We took the elevator down together, and I could see Kina through the glass lobby doors before we even reached the ground floor. She looked terrible. Unwashed hair, wrinkled clothes, the kind of desperate appearance that comes from living in your car for a week. The security guards looked relieved when we appeared. "She's been here for an hour," one of them explained. "Says she won't leave until she talks to you." "It's fine," I told them. "We'll handle this." I pushed open the lobby doors, and Kina immediately started toward me. "Finally! I've been waiting forever. We need to talk." "No, we don't." "Yes, we do. This has gone far enough, Orion. You're destroying my life." "You destroyed your own life. I'm just refusing to clean up the mess. I lost everything. My job, my home, my friends, everything. You lost those things because of your choices, not mine." Helena stepped forward. "Ms. Vanton, you're trespassing on private property. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Kina turned to Helena with pure hatred in her eyes. This is all your fault. You poisoned him against me. I've never discussed your marriage with your ex-husband. Our relationship is strictly professional. Professional? Is that what you call it? The implication was clear and completely false. Helena's expression didn't change, but I could see the ice forming in her eyes. I think this conversation is over, Helena said quietly. It's over when I say it's over, Kina shouted. I'm not leaving until he agrees to fix this. Fix what, exactly? I asked. All of it. Call off your lawyers, stop the restraining order, give me back access to the house. Absolutely not. Then I'll make you sorry. I'll make both of you sorry. It was a direct threat, made in front of witnesses, captured on security cameras. Helena pulled out her phone and started recording. Could you repeat that, please? Helena asked calmly. Kina realized her mistake immediately. I didn't mean... You threatened both of us, in front of security guards, on camera, with multiple witnesses. I was just upset. You were making threats. There's a difference. The security guards had already called the police, and we could hear sirens approaching. Kina looked around frantically, clearly realizing that she'd trapped herself. This isn't over, she said, backing toward the door. Actually, Helena said, I think it is. The police arrived as Kina was trying to leave the building. The security guards provided their witness statements. Helena shared her recording, and I gave a detailed account of Kina's escalating harassment. The officers were professional but firm. Kina was arrested for criminal trespass, making terroristic threats, and violation of the restraining order that had been served that morning. As they led her away in handcuffs, she looked back at me with an expression of pure rage. You think you've won, she screamed. This isn't over. I'll find a way to make you pay. But it was over. Even Kina seemed to realize it as the police car pulled away. Helena and I stood in the lobby, watching the taillights disappear into Austin traffic. Well, she said finally, that was educational. I'm sorry you got dragged into this. I wasn't dragged into anything. I chose to be here. Why? Helena considered the question seriously. Because you're worth defending. Because you handled an impossible situation with integrity and intelligence. And because I don't like bullies. We went back upstairs to finish our work on the Brennan case, but I found it hard to concentrate. For the first time in months, I felt truly free. Kina was facing serious criminal charges now. Her credibility was completely destroyed, her ability to harass me was legally constrained, and her campaign of professional sabotage had backfired spectacularly. More importantly, I had discovered something about myself during this whole ordeal. I wasn't the boring, passive person I'd thought I was. I was capable of fighting back, of taking control, of winning. Helena, I said, as we packed up our work for the evening, thank you. For what? For showing me what I was capable of. She smiled, a real smile this time, not the calculated corporate expression she usually wore. You showed yourself, Orion. I just provided the opportunity. As we left the office together, I realized that Kina had been wrong about almost everything. I wasn't too boring to be interesting. I wasn't too predictable to be exciting. I wasn't too safe to be powerful. I was exactly as dangerous as I chose to be, and I had chosen to be very dangerous indeed. The war was over, and I had won completely. Kina would spend the next several months dealing with criminal charges, legal fees she couldn't afford, and a reputation so damaged that rebuilding it would take years. Meanwhile, I had a new career, new opportunities, and new understanding of my own capabilities. The boring man's war was finished, and the boring man had discovered he wasn't boring after all. He was just patient, methodical, and absolutely ruthless when necessary. Kina had wanted excitement in her life. She got it, just not the way she'd expected.